Hi there. This video is about perpetualism, which is a different type of economics, and I will try to explain in this video the key observation and the key fact that is behind my new economic theory, which is completely different and does away with current economics. The very simple question is, if you had let's say you have a unlimited supply of fuel, because you still need fuel, well, let's not change that. So you have an unlimited supply of oil, and you have a machine that makes everything that everybody needs. So you have a big factory, and out of the factory, cars, ice cream, bread, books, televisions, everything comes out of that big machine. That's imaginable because at this time we already have factories that make a lot of stuff with very little people involved. And of course you can have automated harvesters and agricultural machines. All that stuff is completely possible, and actually it's already here. So imagine you have a world with unlimited fuel supply, so you don't have an energy problem, and you have a machine that makes everything. Would in that world everybody be out of a job and destitute because they can't earn any money? Of course, you would say, of course, that it would be unmaintainable, that it would be impossible to maintain that type of society with everybody out of a job because there's nothing to do. And that's because a key ingredient in this story, which is the energy, of course, the oil. If you have to get it from somewhere, you have to get it from someone, and that someone wants something back. There's always some people involved. So if you take that part out of the equation and you just talk about a machine that makes everything you want with renewable energy, which doesn't have to come from anywhere, what is the situation then? Would then still everybody be out of a job and destitute and at home? No, I don't think so. Because the only thing you would have to do in that situation is redistribute the products, because the mining has the energy supplied and it's people doing the mining, or there's a machine doing the mining, so somebody sits back next to a mountain and the copper comes out and doesn't even care about it because it goes to the factory where it's processed into everything that needs copper in it. The whole logistic system is automated. It's a hands-off system. This is just an exaggeration because, of course, in reality it's not like that. In reality there are people involved. But the key item that I want to show is that you have such an overproduction capacity with fossil fuels at the moment, but if you take the fossil fuel element out, you replace it by renewables, you have such an overproduction capacity because of the automation, because of the machines that do the work, that full employment is nonsense. That people having to have a job and that is good for the economy is complete nonsense. That's obsolete. That whole thinking is obsolete. And it actually became obsolete the first moment somebody made a machine that did the work of 20 people, but because the owner of the machine was selfish and because the banker tried to extract as much money as possible, this machine was only for one person, and the yield was only for that one person. He made a profit, and all the 19 other people were laid off. I think we're reaching a point now where you have so much capacity in production that it makes no sense to treat people that are not working, that are not producing anything, as a bad thing. Actually, that's a very natural thing to have if you have, and especially if you have renewable energy, because then they are not even a burden. Now you could say that because somebody consumes, he is a burden because he depletes the energy sources of the world. He depletes fertilizer, he depletes oil, and it runs out. Not that anybody cares about depletion on Earth. Of course not. The industry never tells you about how everything is being depleted until there's nothing left. But you could blame somebody for that. Of course you then blame the person in the street that consumes, not the factory that cuts down the rainforest, fishes the oceans dry, and all that mechanized activity that leads to such overproduction. But in the future, if the energy is renewable, if it comes out of the sky, then basically we're back to where we started, which is a completely organic world. A world that can sustain itself. That's why it's called sustainable energy or renewable energy. It's like we're back into the forest where things grow out of the ground and you don't need to do anything for it. You just pluck the fruit from the trees. And I think that's a very key element, because I hear people talk about economics and that we should have more jobs and all that stuff. No, we should not have more jobs. We should simply produce in a costless fashion with renewable energies, and then, of course, in order to make sure that people get the stuff that's being manufactured, they have to have an income or money. But if you automate everything, if you would have this machine that did everything with renewable energy, then everybody would be out of a job, so nobody would have an income. And in that situation you can clearly see that it's a basic job of, let's say, the government or whatever organization that situation occurs in. Can be a city, can be a village, can be whatever is self-sustaining. That simply has to get the money back from the manufacturer where it ends up if you buy stuff, and from the shops, and give it back to the people so they can spend it again. Because then money really is what it should be. It's a means of exchange, and that's the only thing it is. And you also see that it's completely senseless to try to hoard money, fiat currency somewhere. It has no purpose whatsoever. Because even if you if you ever find yourself in Timbuktu or some place in Africa and you have $1 million, it's no use at all. What is useful is production capacity, and that does not mean that you have to work. It simply means that you have to have the machine to do the work. A last very simple example is, in one situation you have a diesel water pump that provides water for the village, and you have to go to the diesel salesman and buy it, and you have to maintain it, you have to walk around, and you have to work for the money to buy the diesel somehow. In the alternative situation is you get a few solar panels, you buy them, you of course need some money, but maybe you can make it yourself, or you can make solar thermal water pump, which you can actually make yourself for very little money. And then the pump runs on renewables. You can make it fully automatic, and you will never have to look at it again. Of course it wears out a little bit, and that is the only thing that remains, is that you have to maintain things, that you have to kind of garden a little bit. But that's a small price, and people will do that because they're just caring, Instead of, in the current society, the most uncaring people win, because it's not about caring, it's about depleting. It's not about growing, it's about harvesting. In the future, with the renewable energies, it will be the other way around. It will be very sensible to care, because if you maintain stuff, you never have to do very much. And if you have taken care of everything, then you can sit back and relax. And I think that will be a lot of people that can do that once the whole idea that it's a different system has landed in the minds. And it has actually, and that's the irony of it, it has actually been like that for years now, because the oil we used was virtually free. Anyway, thanks for listening, and I hope you appreciate it.